This week, Tim Riddle and I will be attending National Conference at Messiah College. It's a good reminder that we are not just us as an EC Church. We're part of a larger body. And representatives and leaders from across the denomination will look afresh at who we are and where we're going in order to fulfill our part of Jesus' commission to make disciples. And our theme for conference this year is pressing on. I'd like you to take a look at this picture and see if you know what it's all about. This is what is becoming a universal symbol. Anybody want to shout out what this means? Turn it on. First-time computer owners are reminded before they seek help for a problem they may be having, make sure the thing is plugged in and that they press the on button. That tends to solve a lot of problems. But once that button's been pressed, you have before you an entire world of information and communication and entertainment that happens almost instantaneously. The race of modern technology is to make everything fast and convenient for us. I also recall, and you may remember these, you may have used these, Lee press-on nails. For a small investment of money and time, you too could have long, strong, beautiful nails. They would save you the impatience and frustration of trying to grow your own, especially if it wasn't working so well. However, the danger of press-on nails may outweigh the benefits of them, especially in the long term. The acetone can get toxic over time. One kind of pressing on can give you instant access to a host of information, entertainment, and communication. Another kind of pressing on can give you quick access to looking good and feeling good. There's a third kind of pressing on that is neither quick nor convenient. It's not particularly concerned with how you look or how you feel. It is concerned with the person you are becoming and with the real goal of life. As the Apostle Paul first said it, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Paul's mind at this point is on the games, what it takes to win. His goal as a follower of Jesus, the prize he is aiming for, is to know Jesus better. And so he presses on. What does that kind of pressing on look like? How exactly do you press on? If it's not a button you push, if it's not nails that you apply, what does pressing on in the Christian life look like? When you are discouraged and overwhelmed or confused or scared. When the Christian thing feels like too much trouble and it's not really getting you what you wanted from life. That's the time to press on. But what does that look like? It begins with a focus. As we heard read this morning from Hebrews 12, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. We keep focused on what's waiting for us. How many of you have vacation plans for this summer? We do, actually more in the fall. In that time just before you leave for the vacation, you may do things to get ready for the vacation that you don't normally do. But if the vacation is one that you're looking forward to, it's worth all the extra work you have to put in on a day-to-day basis because of what's waiting for you It's inconvenient, it's unhandy, it gets in the way of things, all this preparation you have to do. But it's worth it, because when you get there, you'll be able to enjoy it because of all the preparation you've made. Keeping our focus on what's waiting for us when we leave this planet, that home where we will see Jesus face to face. And the bodies that don't work the way they're supposed to will suddenly be perfected. Keeping a focus on that will help us make decisions about what we do now. And sometimes the things we do now are unhandy, they get in the way, they're not convenient, but they prepare us for what's waiting for us. Keeping a focus on what's waiting for us is one way to press on. Speaking of bodies that don't work, Janice and I were in a conversation with a neighbor, and we were mentioning to her that we're not old yet, but we're beginning to notice aches and pains we never had before. And our neighbor, who is a bit older than we are, said, "Guess what? It's not going to get any better." I wonder, are the aches and pains and the real pain and the disappointments and the failures and all these things that we really would rather not have to put up with, are all these things God's way of weaning us off this world? We don't know for sure what that new life is going to be like, but we know what this one is like, and we know when it feels good and we know when it doesn't, and we'd rather feel good. And God says, if you get too attached to this world, you will not be able to understand and appreciate what's waiting for you. Hang in there. God is weaning you off this world to get ready for the incredible thing that's waiting for you. If focus on what's waiting for us is one way to press on, a second way, and this is just as vitally important day to day, is to develop good habits. I'm going to go here. Behind the pulpit, you may have noticed that from time to time I will pick up certain habits, and I try hard not to do it. And I am so grateful to my wife for reminding me there are some things that just don't look very good. Like the time I do this. And I'll come to this side and talk, and I'll come to this side and talk. It's a habit that I would just as soon not continue. Throughout our lives, the habits that we develop are things that help us just navigate life. We can choose to develop habits that make it much easier for us to get through those difficult times. One man described it this way: virtue is what happens when someone has made 1,000 small choices requiring effort and concentration to do something good and right, but which doesn't come naturally. And then on the 1,001st time, when it really matters, they find they do what's required automatically. Virtue is what happens when wise and courageous choices become second nature. We don't want to make the Christian life just a habit, but habits are those things that help carry us through really tough times. Pressing on sounds like mustering up and gutting it through. The fact is, sometimes that'll be required, but most of the time, the habits we develop help us get through those difficult times. Willpower is that thing that we often try to muster when we're pressing on. And the fact is, willpower and habit have a relationship much like an elephant and its rider. Willpower is like the man riding on the elephant. He is much smarter. He knows what needs to be done, but he's not nearly as strong. The elephant, like our habits, is incredibly strong and tireless, but doesn't always know the right thing to do. And so the small habits that our willpower remind us of, the small thing that we do, the small forgiveness, when it would be just as easy to hold a grudge, the small forgiveness and the small forgiveness and the small forgiveness will prepare us for that time that it hurts so bad we can't forgive, and then forgiveness has become a habit. One man was describing his efforts at exercise. And what he had typically done in the past was had this entire regimen that would probably take a half hour every morning, and he'd get up, and for the first 2 weeks, he would go at it full throttle. A little bit sore, but he thought, I'm going to do this. And by the time the end of the third week came, he said, I can't do this anymore. But this time, he decided, going to get up, and the time that I know I have, I will dedicate this time, and I will do one squat thrust. I just found out that now they're called, the name just escaped me. Burpees, thank you. It's actually called a burpee. You squat, put both hands on the ground, thrust your legs back, bring them back up, and stand. And he decided that every day for a week, he would do one squat thrust. What kind of exercise is that? The point is not the exercise, the point is to develop the habit. And so by the second week, this one squat thrust was a habit. So he thought, okay, now I can make it 2. For the second week, he did 2 squat thrusts every morning. Not much for exercise, but he's developing the habit. By the time a significant period of time had come, he was able to do that entire half-hour regimen and feel good. And he did it every time and didn't feel like he was killing himself in the process. When we begin to develop those small habits, that 5 minutes alone with the Lord in the Word, that time where we say, and this is personal admission, I will take 1 cookie instead of 5. That time that I say, I'm going to turn the TV off 5 minutes early and just be quiet with the Lord. It's not a big deal, but the habit begins to get developed so that when the time comes and you're crushed, you've developed a habit that will strengthen you to get through. Your willpower would not do it, but your willpower has helped you develop the habit so that the elephant, the strong, sturdy elephant of habit, will get you through that very difficult time. A relationship with Jesus is not something you just turn on when it's convenient. It's not just something you put on to hide your shortcomings. It's a relationship that carries you through even the most difficult times by focusing on what's coming and developing those good habits that carry you through. This morning, we've shared the communion meal, experienced anew what it means to be graced by God. And now, press on, empowered by His resurrection power, prepared to face whatever's coming next, to gain that prize of knowing Jesus. Pray with me.